Is that the one? Wait, is Rocky 4 the one with the robot, or is that Rocky 3?
Yeah, no, it's Rocky 4.
That movie's a shit show, but it's the fucking best. Alright, what is going on, everybody? It is your boy, Pad Chennington, and today I am so excited to be joined by a legendary DJ, the man, the myth, the Phantom's Revenge. I am chilling with him in the pad today. How are you doing, my man?
Hey man, I'm doing good. I never stopped making music. There is times where I was on and off, but like since last year I made like a shit ton of music. Yeah, I'm still working on some stuff. Probably know I have 2 projects now, so working on Phantom track and then DG DVD rip tracks too.
Yeah, we were talking through email, and I was pretty shocked to hear how much stuff you're actually working on, which is great. And about a year ago, or like 2 years ago or something, I was talking like to myself, and I was like, does the Phantom still make any music? And I went online, I went on Bandcamp, and you still are pumping out some tracks, so there is stuff still coming out.
Yeah, I mean, I guess at some point, the scene changed a bit, and I tried to do a bunch of different things. So I guess people maybe lost tracks. I mean, you're not the only one. I have a lot of people, sending me messages about, oh, you're still making music. Like, I mean, every time I release something, there is always a few people to say, hey, he's back or something like that, But yeah, I've been making music like for 10 years now. I do release way less stuff than I used to do, I guess, and it's probably harder to access it to because I kind of suck at communication and promoting in general, so yeah.
I feel, so it's not even like it's new Phantoms, it's you never left, you've been here the whole time, you're still making stuff, which is great. So, about the Phantom's Revenge, 'cause I always wondered this growing up, so what made you choose the Phantom's Revenge as your name? I mean, I thought that, like just the imagery of that like comic book style drawing of the Phantom's Revenge, and I just thought that always looked cool, but I never had any idea what it meant or anything like that. So why did you choose going with the name The Phantom's Revenge and just that whole vibe?
Yeah, it's really like nothing deep or anything. I mean, it's not like that I even was into the comic book when I was young, because it's really I didn't even know the comic book when I was young, because it's pretty. I don't even know if they make like if they release it in France. Maybe they did, but compared to all the other comic books, like all the other superhero stuff, the Marvel or DC comic stuff, it was nothing. But once I made a MySpace like I don't know, I guess it was like 12 years ago. I didn't pick a name at the time, so I was looking for a name, and I used to watch a lot of like shitty movies, try to shittiest movie. And once I bumped into this movie about the Phantom. It's called The Phantom, actually. And I don't know if you have ever seen it.
Is it like the Phantom at the Opera? Is it that movie? I could be completely wrong. Okay.
It's based on the comic book,
Oh, okay. So, I never even knew they did something like that.
Yeah, so the Phantom is played by this guy, Billy Zane. He's the bad guy in the movie Titanic. I don't know. You've seen?
Oh, okay. I get. So the guy who wants to get with the girl who Leonardo DiCaprio has or whatever. I gotcha.
Jerk guy, yeah. And somehow he has like a romantic situation with Catherine Zeta-Jones. So I don't know how they ended up in this movie, and it's really bad because to begin with, the Phantom as a superhero is kind of boring. He has a really ridiculous costume. Doesn't really have any major superpower other than he can shoot like lasers with his rings, but most of the time he's using pistols and shooting people,
Yeah, he ain't flying around, he ain't doing anything crazy.
Yeah, so I saw that movie and it was like fascinating, so I started looking into it, and and I realized it was a comic book, so I checked and I read a couple of them, the one I could find, you know. And there's one actually called The Phantom's Revenge, so that's it. That's the title, literally the title of one of the comic, the Phantom comic.
Cool. I mean, I think it's a really awesome image, and no one's really. I can't really think of any other like superhero inspired DJs, and you picked one that's kind of obscure, which is cool. It's not like you went with like Spider-Man and that was your.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, there is. I think there was a few in the MySpace era, like 10 years ago. But the thing is, you know how MySpace was. You need to find. I felt like you need to find some. I mean, strong, if not strong, like something original, like a visual identity, you know.
Of course, yeah. You had to make that first impression for someone to really click on your page or whatever.
And
yeah,
I didn't want to be like DJ, you know, those DJ who put their name on it or something with a press picture of yourself. So it was like just a trick, so I could, you know, have this identity without showing my face and
yeah.
Just
no, it was very mysterious. I mean, I don't know if you watch like my channel or anything like that, but I do the same thing. So my whole thing is I never show my face, but I just talk about, you know, I review things. It's all about the content. I don't want it to be about me. I want it to be about what I'm making. And I think that's a really cool selling point too. It's mysterious in a way. So it brings people in, which is great.
Yeah. But the trick is not to overthinking this. So it doesn't become just about the aesthetic, you know?
I agree.
But, you know, back 10 years ago on MySpace, I didn't really think about it. I got a few pics from the internet. I have some friends who made me a few edits, you know. And then I didn't even, like, pay the graphic design or anything like that, you know.
One thing a lot of us know about The Phantom's Revenge is you've put out some awesome remixes throughout your time, and you've put out quite a lot of them. I know in 2008 and 2009 you had that French House Club promo mix that had like, you had to have like almost a dozen remixes on there. So what out of all the remixes you've done, if you could pick one, like what was your favorite one to do? And in your eyes and your ears, what makes a song remixable? Like when you're listening to music and you would think, okay, this is the song I want to use, what makes that specific song to you ripe for a remix?
Okay, so first of all, I'd like to say that as an advice, I did way too many remixes. I should have said no to half of them. The thing with a remix that is good is like it's kind of gives you the chance to try some new stuff, you know, some stuff you wouldn't even try with your own track. Sometimes it gets me to be like more creative than what I was working on my own stuff. So if I have to pick, I guess one or maybe two, not based on the quality of it, but like I think the first remix I've made that had a little bit of an impact is a remix for this band from Switzerland. It was called Division Kent. The track was called Offshore, and because I think it's the first remix I ever make like with a vocal, you know. And when I sent my first draft, I realized it was really shit, but not shit in a way that it wasn't good. It's just, you know, when you're making music, you have some phases in your production, and this was a really bad phase. There is like way too much sidechain. It was unlistenable. So I tried to work way more on it, and then it turned out okay, and actually it made me change my way of making music. So
wow,
I think it was good. And then if I had to pick another one, I would probably tell you the Phoenix Solar one, Lies. I guess, yeah, this one is cool. I mean, it's the one over time that people ask me the most about, you know.
Yeah, I feel like those two ones, like if I'm typing in The Phantom's Revenge online, those are going to definitely be the top ones that are going to pop up, I feel.
And to go back to your other question, what makes working on a remix fun? For me, it's just when you have to work with good vocals. I mean, it's simple as that, you know. I try to work on there is a lot of remix I was working on that I never get to finish because I will not give you name, but sometimes, you know, you receive someone a cappella, you know, the vocals, and after working for a while on it, you just you just can't stand it anymore, you know?
I know.
The same loop, and like, I can't do anything with this.
I worked on my first album about a month ago, and two things that always popped up for me. The two things was, one was that where I would work on a track for so long and I'd get so sick of it, and it was just like my ears would hurt after a while. But the other thing was, and I'm sure this happens to everybody, sometimes I'd be working on a track for so long, like 3, 4, 5 hours in, it sounds really good to me. Like I'll get so into it, and I'm like, oh, this is amazing, this is amazing. I turn it off. I come back the next day to work on it, and it just sounds like shit. It's so bad, and I'm like, oh my god, like what was I listening to yesterday?
Yeah,
that was so good. So it's so funny.
It's a classic one. I found a way around it. I mean, it's not really a way, but if I start working on something and it starts to sound good, usually what I do. Either I'm really sure about it, you know, but usually you're not, you know. So I stop working on it, I put it aside, and I come back to it like the day after or the next day. Then you know, I mean, and that way you avoid wasting hours, because I used to do that like a lot, you know, wasting like 5 hours on something, 6 hours, and then the next day I will just throw it in the trash. So I prefer working on something for, let's say, 45 minutes, and then I come back to it for like 1 more hour, and then when you know, you just go ham after that, you know, until you finish the track. But yeah, man, can't lose time anymore.
I agree with you, and that is true. I would, maybe because it was like the first album I was working on, like I would spend so much time on certain tracks, but that's one thing. Just, you know, productivity is something I really want to improve, and I think a lot of us can improve, which is awesome, especially hearing it from you. And yeah, I think a lot of us once we start doing something really good, we really start cooking, we get carried away. We're like, oh my god, I gotta, you know, my brain's working, I gotta keep going on it. But the way you put it just now is very interesting. I never really thought of it that way. Kind of just let it sizzle, you know?
You have to find your rhythm. I mean, it took me years, but, you know, I was working on Fruity Loops back in the day, and I used to spend like a really crazy amount of time just changing kick drums and stuff, you know, like spending 2 hours changing, like, you know, working on a loop, like a really short loop, 8 bars loop, and just trying all the kick drums in my hard drive. I was going crazy but I don't do that anymore. I mean, when you find I mean, your rhythm, you switch, like you don't spend like 2 hours on a kick drum. I mean, it's ridiculous.
No, I know you obsess over it, which is it gets wild. Following up on just the previous topic of your remix choices and how you tackled those and what made you like a remix and whatnot, let's talk a little about before the Phantom's Revenge was even a thing. Yeah. So what kind of got you into music and further developed the style and raw energy of the Phantom's Revenge sound?
I guess it's just like a mix of influences. So I'm 35 years old now, and when I first started going out, you know, clubs and stuff, I mean, I live in a shithole, but back in the days, you know, when was like I guess the first wave of the French house, the music was so popular that it was even on like regular radio, you know, and like daytime radio and top 40 stuff. I mean, they used to play Stardust at 2 p.m., you know, and
that's amazing. And you've been in France. You've lived in France your whole life, correct?
Yeah. When I was, let's say, between 15 and 18, I got everything thrown at my face, you know, like Daft Punk, Homeware, and then from there was like this scene. It's like like mix between Chicago house and, you know, like Paul Johnson and a few guys, French guy, you know, like do you know Sébastien Léger?
Yeah, well, from Ed Banger?
No, not Sébastien. It's Sébastien Léger. It's like a French dude that used to make like disco house, and then like a lot of guys, he stopped working with sample to make really boring electro music. Anyway, okay. So there was this guy, another guy. I think he was from Belgium. He was called DG Neckbath. Okay. And they were making this kind of Chicago house, but with a little bit more, I would say, action. And yeah, so I was listening to that when I was like between 15 and 20 when I was at school. And then for, let's say, after 2001 maybe, from there to 2000, I would say 6, it was a strange time for music, in between the French house waves, I guess. It was all about like vocal house. It was a bit boring. And then started to be like guys like Sebastian, Mr.Oizo, Just G's, of course. And in my mind, I always was making music when I was at school, but just some sketches, nothing serious.
Okay.
And then when I started to hear this music that was how could you call it? Like it was heavy, it was like in let's say 2007 where I lived, it was all about like minimal electro techno, very boring. And I would say all the headbanger stuff was the opposite, like maximal. I don't know what's the opposite of minimal is, but
I get exactly. It was loud. It was. I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
And in my mind, I just try to do something that's mix both what I was listening to when I was younger, like Chicago house, and then all the French stuff with like really heavy kick drum, a big snare, a bit of like cut everywhere. So yeah, that's what I try to do. I try to get something that I loved when I was young, but I don't know, mix it with some Red Bull and something.
That's a great way to explain it. Yeah, I know me personally, and I would love to hear what your favorite was from that mid-2000 era, but one album I always go back to, always, is Lamb's Anger, Mr. Oizo's Lamb's Anger, and I just, that entire album to me, it's just this mix of like just French house with industrial, experimental electro, and just, he has this like ability with all these, he does these little like weird clicks and like little screeches everywhere that you would think would sound annoying, but the way he does it is just so, I don't know, it's just fantastic, and that whole era to me is like one of my favorite times, because I did a documentary on Crydamour, the French house label with Eric Chedeville, and one thing that a lot of those artists in the late 90s to the early 2000s was saying was that everybody eventually, and I'm sure you can relate to this being from France, is he was saying that everybody was trying to do it. Like everybody was getting onto it, that whole sound, and by the time the early 2000s hit, it was so overdone. And it was so overplayed that like people started getting exhausted from it, and they needed kind of this revolution. And what better way with Ed Banger and Styles P, all those guys over there, just hitting you with these crazy hard, tracks. It was awesome. And being from America, like nobody. I mean, this was never on the radio. The only time I feel we ever got any sort of French house on the radio was when Discovery came out by Daft Punk. Like we had like One More Time was out, and that's really it. Like that's all we really. I can only remember. But then again, I was young too, because I'm 25, so I was. Yeah. But when Discovery came out, I was definitely young. But I do remember it. I do remember on the radio. It was just One More Time. So I could only imagine just how overplayed that style, that French house style, was by the time the 2000s hit for you in France. So yeah.
I mean, and the thing is, you can imagine as it was like 20 years ago, So if you speak like now, let's say if something is overdone, there is always a way. We have the internet. You can find samples everywhere. But 20 years ago, when those guys were making music, they had to go find some place with like vinyls and stuff. They had to sample the vinyls or even old CDs, But it's not like you can find everything you want. So at some point, too, there was like a shortage of good samples for all of them. And maybe they like the perspective, because you take guys like guys from Headbangers, and you can tell that their influences are different, So is this mix of influences has created something new, The way Mr. Oizo can make something which is really like with like really gritty bass, like electro, and then working on a sample. The way Justice do it too, remixing like Metallica, and then making a really like funk type song with I would say a sweet sample. That's explain it, because the first wave of French house, it was pretty straightforward. You know what I mean? That's how you say it was like played out, because it was pretty much all the same formula.
Yeah, and after a while, how much of the same thing can you kind of do?
Yeah, because it turned then for like the mainstream part of it was like, you take a sample, you put some vocals on it, Stardust, Mojo, all this stuff, tracked by Cassius too, and yeah, at some point there's not so much you can do about it.
Following up on that question, because we jumped to the past and what built you up to the Phantom and just the styles you've listened to living in France and whatnot. Now that we're getting into it's 2019 and the 2020s are right around the corner, and with the digital age and the internet age, and like you said, just grabbing a sample is as easy as going on YouTube and using YouTube to MP3 converter and just grabbing whatever you want.
Okay.
What do you want to see happen in the, I guess, electronic music world in the 2020s? And what do you think is just going to come out of this next decade of artists who are just producing online or just the live scene? Like, what do you want to see?
I don't know. I guess I'd like to see people taking this like less seriously. In the end, it's just like music and MP3, and people try to analyze it like it was like if it was really serious, And then the next step will be, I guess, like we said, that it's so easy now to find something, I think people are taking advantage of it. Like, with all we can find, the internet, all the tutorials you can find on YouTube now, I feel like people should be, I hope they will be way more creative, while making music.
I agree. I think one thing that would be really cool, that I always thought would be cool, is in the late 70s and early 80s when they were making disco and electro funk, those were all raw organic instruments, and they would have dozens of people in a studio record that stuff. I think it would be so cool nowadays if somebody or a group of people were to really replicate that, grab like 20, 30 different instrumentalists from strings to trumpets and horns or whatever, and really recreate a brand new disco album or something like that.
Some people are already doing that. The thing is, you barely ever hear it. Of course, it's not like straightforward disco, because you got to bring something new. But some people have like used to make house music. Now they do a lot more live act and they do like live band things. With old school synthesizer. I mean, I don't know. I don't have any names that come to mind. I mean, if you get, I don't know if you're into like, like Mahgerefteh, Glenn, Astro, all those guys. They do stuff with like Apron. I don't know if you know this label, the Steven Julian Funky Neven label.
No, if you can after this, send that to me, because I'll definitely.
I will send it to you. It sounds like modern disco, but the problem is for this to break through like the huge mainstream world, it's really hard, because after a while, of course, we can't invent anything new anymore. Everything is just a variation of something that has already been there for.
I agree.
And everything that's popular now, it's like dumbed down, watered down version of something that used to be, and now it's everywhere. You look at the movies, you look at the commercials, the little ad they have at the beginning of the video, always the same. It's like dumbed down version of deep house, I don't know, new disco or something. And I guess what I like to find more, like you say, in 2020 is maybe more color, more of something that make your music unique, And I guess for that it starts by DJs and the radios, and I mean, it's a mess, but I guess if there is more project, like you just said, like people just getting together and making, like disco and stuff, yeah, that could work.
Yeah. Yeah, it's another thing that just makes that. Well, that's the thing too. It's not that it's necessarily people don't want to come together in real life and stuff, but just the convenience of being able to just email someone online these days, another artist, and go, hey, let's work on something together. I'll send you this, you send me that, and it goes back and forth. It's so much simpler these days for just people who want to make music to go about it in like a virtual way.
Yeah.
Where so it is interesting.
Back then, when people used to gather and make music, with synthesizer and stuff. We're talking about a very different price. Now the price of the gear is just crazy, but everyone, we can have access to a lot of stuff, even if you don't have hardware. You can still make a lot of stuff. You can get a bunch of VST. You can sample some stuff.
Of course,
you can sample. You don't have to sample like disco forever. You can sample all kind of different stuff. You can sample jazz. You can, and yeah. I guess people just have to find a way to break free from formulas and recipes. The way people make music just to get like popular or to get gigs if you're a DJ.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, as a try, they always make the same shit. And
I know if you sacrifice a little bit and maybe just take a chance and make something new, you could be so much better than you would be by just following that same formula. I totally feel you.
Yeah. Of course. Doesn't mean that you have to. I'm not even speaking about the underground something. Just bring something like little by little. The thing that I regret is I don't know if you noticed, but when someone start getting really successful,
mm-hmm.
It's like there's no way back. Like I always think about this example that like. If you think about Calvin Harris, the way he got really famous in the past years, and he seems like he has to follow a certain road to keep being popular.
Yeah, he has to follow these like rules. I feel you.
And sometimes I think that what keeps him from just somehow, sometimes just like, hey, you just want to have fun and just release a couple of tracks that have nothing to do with what he's making the past year, like. No dance, like his first albums, the shit almost sounded like Prince sometimes, And I guess if more guys like this will just chill and maybe break free from, the rules and money, and sometimes we just bring just a bit more of something fresh into it, then it will go straight from top to bottom. You know what I mean?
I totally feel you. I don't know if I'm sure you've heard of Disclosure, right?
Yeah.
They had Latch that came out like that had to be like 3 or 4 years ago. I think it was with Sam Smith. It was like huge in the USA. Like he's huge. And that track was like the top of the radio, whatever. And then I know maybe within this past year, they released a couple other tracks. And I absolutely love them. I don't know if you got a chance to listen to like Love Can Be So Hard and with them I kind of think it was a breath of fresh air listening to that because they kind of didn't follow that like let's just go into the radio, let's grab the biggest celebrity, the biggest artist we can get and just let's crush out another radio hit.
Yeah.
And they really kind of stood out, which is I'm excited to see what's coming from them. So there are people who are doing it, which is exciting.
Yeah, it's exactly what I was saying. It's a good example. They could have just follow a simple road to success and make a shit ton of featuring with, like you say, popular vocalist and something really easily digestible for radio and to get on, I don't know, Jimmy Fallon or something.
Yeah.
But they say, hey, why not just make some disco?
Good music, yeah. Another thing I like to do, and I've done this with other artists I've interviewed, I'm a big movie guy, and I feel like I could get to know a person a lot and just really relate to them by what their favorite movies are. So I guess we could just kind of maybe drift away from the music talk for a little bit. So I don't know if you're a big movie guy, but I know we all got a favorite movie. So if you had to pick, what is your favorite film and why?
No, it's a good and difficult question because you have to think about, do I pick what I think is the best movie ever, or do I pick the one I feel like will like watch forever, which is true.
Let's do this then. Give me what you think objectively is just the best movie ever made, and then you tell me what your personal favorite movie is of all time.
Yeah, I can think on something, but it's really cliche if I say it. But
hey, go for it.
Because it's like everyone supposed best movie ever made. So if I say Shawshank Redemption, I guess it's pretty boring because everyone say that. I mean,
nah, that's my brother's like favorite movie ever. He just talks about that all the time. That damn movie. So
yeah. But if I think about what are my favorite movies, if I had to pick one, I would say probably The Big Lebowski.
Oh, I love The Big Lebowski, man. That's the best.
I think I watched that movie like I don't know how many times, because that's what I do. I'm a huge movie guy too, but there's movies that I watch like all the time because I sometimes put movies before like going to bed or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I just watch a bit of it. So yeah, there's like a dozen movies that I've seen maybe more than 40 times. So I would say The Big Lebowski. I mean, for obvious reason, this movie is, it was on there was a little cinema in my town, and they mostly play indie movies, and they played it like, I don't know, I think it was 4 months ago, and I went to see it, even though I have the movies on my computer, and I've seen it already, I don't know how many times. But, yeah, Big Lebowski, I will tell you, Rocky 4.
Oh yes, thank you. I love Rocky because I'm a huge Rocky fan, and everyone hates Rocky 4 because 80% of the movie is just montages and pictures.
That's why.
But I love it. I love it so much.
Rocky 4 is like a music video.
Oh, it's the best.
Which is one of the best soundtrack ever for me.
Oh, amazing. Hearts on Fire is like one of the best songs ever made.
Hearts on Fire. Shit. The one where he's driving his sports car and he's upset.
Is that the one? Wait, is Rocky 4 the one with the robot, or is that Rocky 4?
Yeah, no, it's Rocky 4. Yeah,
it's Rocky 4. Oh my goodness, that movie's a shit show, but it's the fucking best. It is the best.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. Of course, I mean, there's no denying that,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the message at the end, Russia and America, but just for that scene where they are training, the training montage when he's picking up that mountain, and I don't know, man. It's pretty crazy.
When he's running with like the 2,000-pound tree on his back.
Yeah. yeah. It's,
amazing.
It's really cheesy, It's like a Cold War kind of remix, but reversed. Like the Russians are all about the machines and stuff, and Wookiee is just lifting trees and cutting wood and stuff.
Yeah, I love that. One of my favorite parts of that movie is when they got Ivan Drago in that like laboratory, and he punches that machine.
Yeah,
and it says that like his punch is like a 2,000-pound just object hitting you.
Yeah.
So I remember even being a kid, I used to love rock, and I like as a kid I would think to myself like during the fight, like how in the God's name if this man is throwing 2,000 pounds of force on you, how is Rocky's ribs not coming out of his mouth?
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense.
And this one, unlike the other Rocky, which are pretty like I wouldn't say realistic, but pretty serious. This one really looked like a music video, and also has that. I don't know if you ever played Super Punch Out on Nintendo, and he has that kind of vibe, like the Russian guy. He was like a video game boss, like
yeah, larger than life, and
yeah.
It was awesome. Did you see any of the Creeds, the new ones?
Yeah, I know. I've seen the first one, and I have the second one, and I haven't seen it yet. But
yeah, I haven't seen. Me and my girlfriend saw the first Creed. We thought it was awesome,
yeah,
and then
it was.
I'm so excited to see this new one. Yeah. So that would be exciting. Are you into like boxing, MMA, anything like that?
Not really. I mean, I watched like the big fight time, but I'm not really into it. I got a bit more into it when I spent time in America because my friends were really into boxing. But me, I mean, I couldn't tell you who is the world champion right now. So.
Gotcha. Yeah, here, I mean, it's getting bigger and bigger, like just the whole UFC scene and MMA and all that stuff. But I'm assuming in France, because I have a lot of, all my family's from Italy. Everyone's from Sicily. So I go in the summer to Sicily. And when I get there, all that's there is literally soccer. Like, it's just soccer, or football.
Yeah, man.
But, like, in France, is there, that's really what kind of just dominates still, or is there anything else?
No, it's football. I mean, I myself consume a lot of football. Mm-hmm. I play a lot too. But yeah, it's football and then handball. I don't think you have handball in America.
No, it's not big at all. We have like the handball we have is like one we would play like in the schoolyard. There's this type of handball we play where we like throw it off a wall and stuff like that. But it's definitely different than what you guys have because I don't think that's what. It's like some Americanized shit we've done. I have no idea. What's your favorite team? Are you because all I know from France is like PSG, and then I know Mario Balotelli's on a team, right? Something like that.
Yeah, he's in Marseille. I would say it's my favorite team in France because it's really close to where I live. It's like an hour and a half away driving.
Wow.
So I catch a few games sometimes, and my cousin is a football player.
No way.
He play in the French league. He play in a team called Strasbourg. It's a really nice city next to Germany.
Wow. Is he in the top league?
Yeah.
That is amazing. Look at that.
They are like, let's say, I think now, just a few points behind Marseille, of the league right now.
Wow. Is PSG still at the top?
Oh yeah. I mean,
oh god.
There is not even comparison. I mean, I think you don't have that in America in the sports, even except maybe if you consider NBA and Golden State and stuff. But
and NBA is really the only one. I mean, the biggest sport here is pretty much just American football, and it's always different every year. Someone's always different on top.
And you have like a salary cap and stuff like that. We don't have that.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that what I've always loved though about the way soccer's run in Europe, like in Italy with Serie A and the Premier League and stuff like that. I don't know. There's like a charm to this whole idea of there's always this one team that dominates on top, whether it's Juventus, right? Or in England, you had like Manchester United in the 2000s. But there was such a joy I would always find about like an underdog team every once in a while beating the best team. And you don't get that a lot here in America. You don't really, it's like, oh, okay, like here's two teams, one could win, one could not. I don't know. There's really not a lot of big, crazy upsets that you would see. Like on television, I would watch like a Serie A game, and I know Juventus, they lost, I think last week for the first time in the league. I think. I think they played Genoa or something, and they lost, and like everyone on Genoa's side was like losing their minds. Like it was crazy. So that I always found that really cool.
Yeah, and there is a lot less games than you can have in NBA. So every win means something.
That's very true.
Whereas I remember. I only saw one NBA game, live, when I was in Denver. And it was 2 years ago against Cleveland, LeBron James.
Oh, wow, so you got to see LeBron.
Yeah, but he actually got trashed, and he spent most of the time on the bench because I guess it was one of those games that they decided not to really win.
Yeah, see, that's what you get a lot here too.
And no one really cared about it because it makes sense. You play like how much, like 80 games a season, something like that. So if you lose a few ones, it's not a big deal.
Mm-hmm. I know I don't know if you know a lot about the NBA, but I'm from New York, so I'm a Knicks fan, and the Knicks.
I'm sorry for you.
They are the worst, horrible. And every year we always think we're going to be good this year, and then they start doing horrible. And by the end of the season, like for the last month, the way the NBA works is the worse you end up being, the higher draft pick you get for the next year.
The best young one.
Yeah, so then at the end of the last 2 months, you're just like, they're playing to lose all the time, and it's just like, this is so depressing.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but that is funny. Yeah, it's tough being a Knicks fan. That's all I gotta say. It's horrible.
But I'll tell you that watching an NBA game and a soccer game, it's very different. It's much more entertaining to watch a basketball game in the United States. I mean, unless you're lucky, but I mean, if you go watch a football game here, you can get really bored. It's just like 1 hour and a half, and there is nothing fun. There is no animation, like in NBA.
I feel it. And following up with the Knicks thing is like, even though they suck, I love going to a Knicks game. Like, it's at Madison Square Garden. It's exciting. Like, there's everyone. No matter, even they could be so bad, everyone still has a good time, and it's true. And I've seen a couple soccer games in the States. I know sometimes when they do like I forget what it's called. It's like the International Cup or something, and like kind of like the best clubs from around. I got to see Chelsea play PSG like 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And even like it wasn't a real, like, obviously it didn't mean anything. So when the game started, like they benched like 80% of their best players, and it was slow, and it was like, like this kind of sucks.
Yeah, I've seen the Red Sox played 5 years ago, and I don't understand anything about baseball, but I had a blast.
Yeah, I could tell you baseball is weird. Like, you could go to a baseball game and just grab like a popcorn, and even though baseball is this like the slowest sport, but there's something about just like being in the atmosphere, and it's nice. It's like relaxing and what's the name? I don't remember how it's called. Is it Fenway, Boston? Fenway Park, yeah.
Yeah, it was really nice. I mean, of course we got drunk, so I didn't even know who won the game. But
if you're in Boston, you got to get plastered. That's like the place to do it. Have you ever been? I'm sure you've been to New York City, right?
Yeah. I've been there. Not enough. I wish I've been there like way more. One of my favorite city, of course.
So outside, once again, another maybe music question, but not really in the realm of French house or just stuff like that. Outside of that, so any other music genres, just whether you're growing up or whatever you're listening to now, do you have any other favorite artists you would say, whether they've inspired you or not, just other artists you've liked to listen to or bands outside of just the whole French house scene?
There is so much. I mean, I consume so much music now. I mean, it's even too much. But you mean in terms of like house music and stuff like that, or something?
It could be anything, like absolutely anything at all.
My idols, of course. So like I said, there is like Paul Jansen, and then I would say Kenny Loggins.
Okay.
Big fan of anything, like all American pop music from the 70s, 80s. I would say also, Tatsuro Yamashita.
Yes.
Which is like a god to me.
Yeah, city pop legend.
Yeah, I've been listening to his music since forever, and it was nice to see that at some point city pop became popular again.
Yeah, it's like huge. I know I cover a lot of like future funk and vaporwave. That's pretty much my whole thing. And for future funk, like it's just at least half the people are just sampling city pop sounds, and it's beautiful. Like I love city pop as well.
Yeah.
There's a record store in Brooklyn, in New York City. There's a record store that strictly sells city pop import vinyl, and it's so cool. I was there actually a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, one of the good thing about this revival is I wasn't calling it city pop back then, of course, but I've been listening to like Japanese funk for a long time, but back then it was so hard to find anything, even on YouTube. But then people started getting into it again, and now you can find pretty much anything you want. Yeah, that's always my favorite. I think, I don't know which album I would say, but just his greatest hits album.
Yeah, I think I know the first one. I always go like the For You album, the one with Sparkle and stuff. Oh man, and the album art on that is so pretty. I love that album cover.
Yeah. Actually, last month I was in Tokyo, and the man Hypo, my friend, who bring me to Tokyo. When I first got into his place, he has just like one vinyl standing on the wall, and it was Tattoo For You. So I was like,
That's cool. How was Tokyo? I've always wanted to go. Like, I'm dying to go there.
It is freaking amazing. I would say, in my mind now, it kind of beats New York, but I guess it's maybe equal. But no, it's freaking amazing.
No offense taken. I'm sure Tokyo is way better than New York City, man. New York City, we got like just tall ass buildings and dollar pizza. Besides that, it's really all we got. We got dollar pizza and just really tall pieces of cement. So Tokyo seems crazy, like this, the lights and the this and the that. It's like, oh my god.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's more to it. Like, I'm sure. I don't know. Did you go anywhere outside of Tokyo in Japan? Like
man, I've only stayed like 1 week, and I feel like I've seen 12% of Tokyo. I mean,
wow.
Yes, so, and I've seen some crazy stuff, but there is so much going on that's crazy. And yeah, that's why that's all. But I wouldn't say For You, because For You doesn't include the best song of all time,
which is
that is Right on Time.
Right on Time is amazing.
From the album Right on Time. That's why I would say, if you ask me if I have to keep one album, I would say the Greatest Hits, because it has the best of For You and Right on Time. So
that's awesome. Did you I guess because now that we were just talking about the record store that I just brought up, do you collect vinyl?
No, not anymore. I used to, but it got me in trouble with my bank back in the days.
Oh no,
spending too much money.
Yeah, no, I totally feel you on that. I used to go like garage sale, yard sailing, and people would be selling their boxes of records, like 200, 300 boxes of records that they didn't even they just want to get rid of it. And I found like so many disco and funk like that, and that's kind of how I got into vinyl.
Yeah, I still sometimes buy vinyls, but exclusively the 10 last I got was when I was in America, because people have no idea what they are selling.
Yeah,
you go to
I
the
know.
store and you get Kenny Loggins LP for like $5.
Yep, yeah, you get some crazy stuff here. Like the dollar bins, man, you find some crazy shit.
But yeah, no, I decided to refrain myself from getting anywhere Discogs and all those websites. I will go back to it eventually, but now I don't even have a turntable. So, but someday, I mean, I will get back to it. Try to get like a collection of my favorite LPs and stuff.
As you know, we were also talking about in the beginning, you are still making music, and yes. There's not just what we heard in the mid to late 2000s on YouTube. There is more. I've seen you on Bandcamp dropping some stuff. So if you can, let everybody know right now, where could they find you these days? What's in store for the Phantom? I know you're working on a ton of shit, my man. You got we were talking about it through email. You got a ton of projects you're working on, which is really exciting. So if you could tell the people anything, if you got to hype them up, spice them up a little, what do you got to tell them?
All right. So, you can find me on Bandcamp. I mean, I don't release everything through Bandcamp, but sometimes I release something like for my side projects, and I released something like 2 months ago, I guess, 3 months ago maybe, an EP from my DG DVD Rip project, which you can find if you go on my Twitter or something. There's a link to it, and I will release soon. Last one I released was 2 years ago. It's a kind of project called Commercial Breaks.
I've seen it. Yep.
Yeah, and I've been working on a bunch of stuff, and I will release a new one soon. So I don't know, it will be like, I don't know, maybe 8, 9 tracks, maybe more, I don't know. And all kind of stuff, there is like some kind of hip-hop type beat, some house music, some disco house, some kind of juke footwork type stuff. So they have that. Then I have like a lot of music that is finished, and I still need to find a place to release them. But you can. My last EP as Phantom, you can get it on like Beatport, iTunes. I released it on Scream labels, Scream from UK.
Okay.
the DJ. It's like a 6-track EP, and yeah, it's everywhere. It's called 9000, and yeah, Beatport, iTunes, Soundcloud, Spotify, everything. At the same time, I'm working on a new mixtape right now, and yeah, this one is gonna be mentally ill. I mean, I've been working on digging tracks for the past 5 months maybe.
Wow.
I don't know how long it's gonna be. The last one was 3 hours and a half. Will be the same, maybe more, I don't know. And then after that, I'm gonna make a follow-up mixtape to the one I made 2 years ago. That was only disco. It was called Michael Knight Laser Jacket. And I will make number 2. I like to say before the end of the year, but who knows? It's March already, and I was supposed to release my mixtape like 3 months ago. So we'll see. And yeah, so I guess technically I still have like maybe 30 songs to release. A lot of them are like disco house with like samples and stuff. Yeah, man, a lot of different stuff.
People, the Phantom is cooking. You heard it here first, baby. The Phantom is cooking it up. So we got a lot of stuff coming up. I'm super excited. And once again, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. If I could rewind time like 10 years ago and know that eventually I'd be interviewing the Phantom's Revenge, I'd be mind blown. And, like, this is awesome for me. So
thanks, man.
Absolutely,
it's like the second time I do this in like 10 years. So
crazy. And you're awesome to talk to. I mean, I finally found someone who appreciates the quality of Rocky IV. So it's, you're definitely good in my book.
I think I'm gonna watch it tonight again.
Good.
Thanks to you.
Good. I might have to as well. Yeah. I gotta find it. I have like the box set. Like I think like because my pops was like a huge Rocky fan too, and we have like the VHS one. So maybe I gotta get the real dusty quality version.
Just low-fi.
100%.
That's what I'm talking about.
But yeah, everyone, I'm going to leave all of the Phantom's links to all his work, whether it's his Bandcamp or other albums and stuff. And if you haven't heard of him, I know most of you guys listening to this right now, you're into vaporwave and future funk. But if you love just upbeat energy, disco, those heavy vocal chops that just make you groove, you got to check the Phantom out. So check the description of this video. You're going to see everything you need there. And yeah, it was a pleasure having you. And any last words you got to say for everybody, or just what do you got to let them know?
Thanks for listening. I want to give a shout out to George from Boston for introducing us, I guess. Because
I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, so big up George. And
really quick too before we leave. That's funny you brought that up. I made the Cry to More video, and then someone messaged me. I forgot where he messaged me. It might have been on Facebook, and he told me that he actually can possibly get me in touch with the Phantom's Revenge. So I was like, holy shit, yeah, like if that's possible, let me know. And then one thing led to another, and now we're here doing an interview. So God bless the internet, because you never know what can come out of it.
Exactly.
Awesome. All right, my man. Once again, thank you so much. Everyone, check the description below. You'll see all the stuff there. It was a pleasure having you in the pad, and I hope to see you again soon.
Yeah, me too. Merci beaucoup.